Heartstopper Volume 2 by Alice Oseman. Content warning / trigger warning, content involving and referencing homophobia and homophobic slurs, bullying, and eating disorders. Alice Oseman, she, they, is an award-winning author, illustrator, and screenwriter from Kent, England. She has written 4 young adult contemporary novels: Solitaire, Radio Silence, I Was Born for This, and Loveless. She is the creator of the LGBTQIA+ young adult romance webcomic Heartstopper. Originally a webcomic on Tumblr and Tapas, Heartstopper is also published in physical form by Hatchet Children's Group. Alice's first novel, Solitaire, was published when they were 19. Now set a year after the beginning of the first Heartstopper, the central protagonist of Solitaire is Tori Spring, with Nick and Charlie, teenage boys at a British grammar school who are in love as minor secondary characters. Their dynamic in this book was where Oseman's desire to tell their story began. Alice wanted to know how they reached the point they're at in Solitaire, where they'd go from there. Oseman spent countless hours lost and in love with the story of Nick and Charlie, bringing Oseman peace in a way even writing their novels couldn't match. Each volume of Heartstopper navigates the ups and downs of first love, friendships, coming out, and mental health, beautifully framed by a warm cast of supporting characters. Since Hatchet Children's Group published Heartstopper Volume 1 and 2 in 2019, they have published a further 3 volumes, a yearbook, 2 novellas, and a colouring book. A final volume of Heartstopper, Volume 6, is set to release in early July 2026. The Heartstopper series has inspired an outpouring of love since it was first published in 2019, with more than 1 million print copies sold worldwide, sold out nationwide book tours, and a live-action Netflix adaptation of Heartstopper, which after 3 seasons on Netflix is scheduled to wrap up with a movie that is currently in post-production and set for release in 2026. Oseman is the writer, creator, and executive producer for the live-action adaptation of Heartstopper. Previously in Heartstopper Volume 1, Charlie, who attends Truman Grammar School 10 months after having been outed by people to the school, breaks off a toxic dynamic with a guy called Ben, who recurringly makes out with Charlie, but only on Ben's terms, on the down low. Charlie Spring is allocated to a seat in homeroom or house support group next to Nick Nelson from the year above him. They exchange an iconic duo of highs, loaded with possibility. When Ben corners and grabs Charlie for an explanation regarding the breakup text, Nick intercedes, scaring off Ben and inviting Charlie to join the rugby team. Another antagonistic encounter initiated by Ben results in Charlie speaking up for himself, stating how their secret makeouts were responsible for a lot of negative emotions that Charlie felt. Ben, happy to have upset Charlie, tries to force himself on Charlie, which Nick, in timely fashion, intervenes and pushes apart. After Ben leaves, Charlie apologizes for a situation in which he was the victim and had no control. Sorry, almost being a catchphrase for Charlie. After Charlie, Nick, and Nick's dog Nellie hang out, Sarah Nelson, Nick's mum, notes that Charlie is different from Nick's other friends and that Nick seems more themselves around Charlie. Charlie arrives home, telling his sister Tori that he's fallen for a straight boy. The following Saturday, Nick hangs out at Charlie's house, taking an interest in Charlie's hobbies and interacting with Charlie's family. Throughout the day, Nick has several moments where he feels something, even being tempted to hold Charlie's hand after he falls asleep while they watch a movie and lingering longer than expected during a hug between friends. After Charlie leaves, Nick types into a search engine, "I like girls, but now I like a boy," but can't bring himself to hit enter, internally in emotional turmoil, falling asleep in tears. Nick and Charlie hang out every day during Easter holidays. Charlie starting to hopefully suspect that Nick likes him from a multitude of signs, but Charlie's bestie, Tow's, done some digging and heard that Charlie has a long-term crush on a girl called Tara Jones from a neighboring school. The other players on the rugby team have noticed that Nick is abnormally affectionate towards Charlie. Nick asks Charlie to go to a massive party with him. Tara Jones, Nick's supposed crush of 2 years that Nick kissed 3 years ago, is in attendance, and Harry, the party host, encourages Nick to get with Tara. Tara reveals she has a girlfriend to Nick. Nick calls Harry out for homophobic comments made about Charlie, and Charlie, having wandered off, brushes off Ben, who's also in attendance. Charlie and Nick reunite in quite a room. Charlie apologizes for wandering off. Nick explains he hasn't had a crush on Tara in years, and that he might go out with somebody who isn't a girl. After much cute banter, Nick and Charlie snog multiple times. Hearing people in the distance, the closeted Nick leaves Charlie alone. Charlie starts apologizing profusely to an empty room, while Charlie's inner darkness deepens, thoughts crashing around him. Heartstopper Volume 2. 3. Kiss. After a restless night with both boys filled with regret over how things ended at the party, a soaked Nick Nelson rocks up at Charlie Spring's house, having forgotten to check the weather before he left. Charlie apologizes for the kiss and says he shouldn't have kissed Nick, thinking Charlie pressured Nick into it. Charlie continues rambling until Nick Nelson clarifies with a kiss that he was also interested in kissing at the party and enjoyed snogging. After Charlie asks for clarification on Nick's mixed signals, Nick loudly apologizes and explains he freaked out at the party and thinks he's having a full on gay crisis. Nick confesses, feeling confused. He's not ashamed, just needs time to figure out how he feels, tears in his eyes. Charlie reassures Nick that it's okay, that Nick being sad makes Charlie sad, and reassures Nick that he hasn't messed up their kiss by being emotionally honest. Charlie says he's happy, and Nick confirms he is also happy. After making some tea in the kitchen, where Tori spies the duo chuckling and being merry, Charlie and Nick relocate to Charlie's family's conservatory filled with plants, and Nick asks Charlie how Charlie realized Charlie was gay. Charlie answers that he was always aware of it from a young age. Boys have always been the source of his crushes, fictional and real. Nick can't relate. Charlie lets Nick know that Charlie's whole family knows that Charlie is gay. Nick doesn't know what he is, having liked girls before, but now he likes Charlie. Nick initially thought his like of Charlie was in a best friend way, but thoughts about hugging and holding Charlie kept creeping into his head, and at the party, the thought to kiss Charlie. Both boys are shocked by the other admitting they like the other person. Charlie suggests the possibility that Nick could be bisexual or something else, as there's lots of sexualities besides gay or straight. Nick apologizes for being confused, and Charlie points out that Nick's now apologizing too much. They have a make-out sesh that is interrupted by Oliver, Charlie's younger brother. Oliver agrees to keep the two kissing a secret, and Charlie agrees to keep their kissing a secret too, after Nick asks, so he has asked for them to keep it on the down low, so he has more time to figure things out and process his emotions. Nick departs with a borrowed umbrella, and Charlie chases him down in the rain for one more covert kiss on the street. Parting ways, the two text each other covertly the rest of the day, and Nick Nelson starts researching bisexuality on the internet. Following their return to school, Nick and Charlie are super chummy. Tao, Charlie's bestie, aware of Charlie's crush on Nick Nelson, but unaware of the reciprocation, is concerned Charlie's going to get hurt by this straight boy. Nick and Charlie continue to get closer, and Nick, following more research, inches closer to feeling like bisexual might be the appropriate label for him. Charlie invites Nick to his 15th birthday party bowling, along with all Charlie's friends. Tao, who's very forthright, Aled, who's shy and nice, and Elle, who moved to the all-girls school the previous year and used to have geography class with Nick. Charlie suspects Tao, and Elle kind of like each other, but they haven't said anything to anyone yet. Tao, seeing Nick flirt with Charlie while being straight, confronts Charlie alone in the bathroom, telling Charlie off for letting Nick lead him for a laugh, and because Charlie's agreed to not tell anyone about him and Nick, has to take it on the chin, calling Nick one of his best friends and telling Tao that he just has to get used to the new status quo. Tao admits he's worried because many of Nick's friends, like Harry, were exactly the sort of people who bullied Charlie when he was out at the previous year, and doesn't want to see it happen again in the days before they were friends with Arlette and Elle, and Charlie was terrified to go to school. Nick overhears the majority of the conversation. Arlette, obviously seeing the closeness between Nick and Charlie, goes along with the thinly veiled story that Nick's there as just a friend, and Arlette says he's glad Nick is here, to Charlie's slight bafflement. In private, Nick gives Charlie a decorated frame with a pic of a snow day they spent together with Nellie. After admitting to Charlie he overheard the bathroom conversation with Tao, Nick admits he's scared he's repeating what Ben did to Charlie, but Charlie corrects Nick instantly, saying Nick is nothing like Ben. Nick wishes younger Nick had known younger Charlie, so he could have helped Charlie navigating his coming out the previous year. May. Fast forwarding to May, Tara talks to Nick at a joint school orchestra practice that Charlie is also at to play drums. Nick admits to Tara that he's going out with Charlie and that they're keeping it on the down low for now. Nick admits Tara is the first person he's told. Tara mentions when Tara and her girlfriend Darcy Olsen first told their friends they'd started dating. Some of them were surprised, but a couple of them remarked they'd known for ages. Nick is introduced to Darcy by Tara, and Nick comes out to her too, when Darcy is shocked that Nick knows that Darcy and Tara are in a relationship. Nick tells them he hasn't figured out what he identifies as yet, and Darcy reassures him it's normal. Tara needed multiple makeout sessions with Darcy before working out for herself. They tell Nick not to come out before he's ready. At a revision study session alone later, Nick tells Charlie that Darcy and Tara are dating, making Charlie embarrassed for getting jealous that Tara and Nick might hook up back at the party where Nick and Charlie had their first kiss, which Nick finds cute. Nick tells Charlie about having let Darcy and Tara know that Charlie and Nick are dating, which Charlie is supportively ecstatic to hear because it means Nick came out to somebody. Being sprung making out by Tori, she hands Charlie some pencils she got him and tells Charlie, "Well done," with a smirk. Nick has a bit of a panic about another person knowing, and Charlie reassures Nick it's okay and normal to not want everybody to know at once. Nick invites Charlie to hang out with Nick's friends at a horror movie. Nick reassures Charlie that Harry won't be there. Tori warns Charlie that Nick's friends are not like Charlie's friends, but Charlie still wants to go. On the day, it turns out Harry has turned up, but they persevere and attend the movie. When they go to get popcorn, Charlie mentions not being hungry. After the movie, Harry teases Charlie for being gay and probably liking Nick, but Nick has none of it and pushes Harry away. Nick apologizes to Charlie in the parking lot alone about his friends, pushing aside Charlie's reassurances that it's fine, because Charlie always covers for Nick, and Charlie shouldn't have to put up with it anymore. After Charlie has been picked up by his dad, Nick goes back inside to reprimand his friends, and Harry calls Charlie a gay slur, Nick punching Harry in retaliation, who then punches him back. Sarah Nelson asks Nick in the car about his bloody nose, and Nick admits that Harry was saying nasty things about Charlie and had been doing so for a while. Sarah says fighting is not the answer, but also acknowledges that Charlie is a special friend to Nick. Nick tries saying more than a friend, but can't bring himself to say the words, so agrees with the term special friend. Nick texts Charlie that he's dumping all his friends, which is showing some dangerous signs of codependency, especially when Charlie points out that some of them are nice, like Sai, Christian, and sometimes Omar. Nick admits he doesn't think he has many good friends apart from Charlie. Charlie says he thinks Charlie's friends want to adopt Nick into their friendship circle, and Nick is ecstatic that they liked him. They fall asleep texting each other, but not before Nick asks Charlie on a proper date. The next morning, Nick fills in Charlie on the fight between Nick and Harry. Then Nick takes Charlie on his date to the beach. Nick and Charlie have a great date at the beach full of smooches and swimming and makeout sessions and photo booths. Charlie asks Nick what Nick meant by not wanting Charlie to cover for Nick anymore, and Nick confirms that he's bisexual and does want to come out. He doesn't want to pretend they're just friends. He wants to tell the people he cares about and wants Charlie to tell the people he cares about too. Charlie cries with happiness and gets clarified that they're officially boyfriends. Returning home, Nick Nelson comes out as bisexual to his mum, Sarah Nelson, and that he's dating Charlie Spring, and she gives him a massive hug and thanks him for telling her. She asks him the right questions, like how long he's had feelings for Charlie, and Nick admits he was hesitant because the two of them never talk about gay stuff, so didn't know how she would react. Nick asks her if Sarah was surprised, and she clarifies that she had suspicions about seeing how much Nick cared about Charlie, but was never sure. Nick's mum reaffirms that she loves him and is sorry she ever made him feel like he couldn't tell her that. Volume 2 ends with the two chattering away, Nellie, the dog, fast asleep. The deluxe version of Volume 2 includes a Heartstopper mini-comic called The Practice Room, where Darcy and Tara are locked in a music practice room together and go from being annoyed with one another to making out before they are found. Both walk away wondering what just happened. There's also an alternate universe storyline involving a plant shop, involving Nick and Charlie.